Hi, my name is Valerie. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sorry I've been away from my channel for quite some time. It's been a really busy summer. I have been attending college. I've completed 2 classes, and then I also took my CLEP exam over American government and I passed that. And so I have earned 9 credits this summer. I'm starting a new adventure. I've announced in previous videos and discussed it, so you may have seen that. So I'm sorry if this is kind of repetitive. If you have not been watching my channel, our family homeschooled for 16 years. My oldest graduated in 2017, and then my second born son, Mitchell, he graduated this past May. Yes, amid the corona and all of that, he was able to graduate. And then I had a ninth grader, a seventh grader, and a fourth grader. And our lives are changing. Things are different. Life has not gone exactly as I planned it. And so we're adjusting. We're trying to for lack of a better analogy, we're trying to play the cards we've been dealt. And that's not a very theological way to put it, I guess, or Christian way to put it. But whatever God has put into our path, we're trying to we're trying to walk in that road. So we did complete the homeschooling year in May, and then everything sort of has been going like crazy over the summer. I think it's been doing that for a lot of people. And so now I'm finally getting a chance to talk about what we did this past year. So one thing that I've been meaning to do for some time is give you the review of the Sonlight Science Level F for Girls, the curriculum that I ordered for my 7th grade daughter. I wanted to just quickly tell you what I liked and what I didn't like. First of all, last summer before school started, I had to read this book, Almost 12. I didn't really know what it was. When I did the unboxing video, and I will put the link to that in the description below, I just quickly was glancing through this book and didn't realize that it is the story of sex. And it's a very brief. I wish I'd had all of my kids read this book. My 7th grader was a little bit too old to read it. She was almost 13 when she read it. But it's something that I believe I'm going to have my youngest son read when he's older. And it's very concise. It's written by Kenneth Taylor, who's a Christian. And it's just a brief explanation of sex and in a very tasteful way. And so my daughter read this over the summer, and there were no questions in the Sonlight material over this book. There was no more detail or any kind of testing over it or anything like that. So this was just a really good brief book. I recommend it as a standalone. Even if you don't do the Sonlight curriculum, I think this would be a good way to have that conversation with your children when the time comes. And it doesn't have to be almost 12, whenever you feel it is right. So we did that over the summer. I'm not going to go in order that we use these materials. I just have them stacked here, so as I come to them, I will talk about them. We watched this video together, Unlocking the Mystery of Life. It's about DNA, and it is so fascinating, and I think I'm going to keep this. Again, these 2 things I will be keeping. I may sell the rest of this material since we are no longer homeschooling, but I really want to keep this DVD. I feel like with my kids in public school now, it's going to be more important than ever to lay this foundation about creation, about the design, the great designer. It's fascinating. There's a book mentioned in this called Darwin's Black Box, and I haven't had a chance to read it, but I've put it on my to-read list. I want to read it, or at least look at it and see what it's like. It's about my understanding is that it's about a scientist who believes that there's a great designer. It does not necessarily mean that he believes in God, but as a scientist who was taught evolution, believed evolution, as he started digging into it, he realized there's got to be a designer. There's got to be a creator. Fascinating. I loved this. I don't know if my daughter did, but I did. Improve Your Survival Skills was just a fun, interesting book. Now, the rest of these materials, the DVD and the rest of the books I'm going to show you, there were questions. There were activity questions every day that she answered. And by the way, we did the 4-day curriculum as opposed to the 5-day because we had 1 day a week where we did co-op. So I wanted the 4-day material. So we didn't get as many books with our kit as you would if you do the 5-day. I think they read 2 more books when you do the 5-day a week. But this was a very interesting book. Lots of different scenarios about your health, how much nutrition you need when you're hiking, how to set up a tent site and where's a good place to set it up, and ways to purify water, how to start a fire, safety about using a fire, hypothermia, you name it, it's covered in this book. We really enjoyed reading it. And when I say we, I looked at it, she read it. All of these materials my daughter did independently. I believe in a perfect world, the parent is supposed to really read these with the kids and interact with them more. But because I had several grades that I was teaching at once and a lot going on, a lot of my kids are independent learners, and she did most of this material on her own. This was one of the more interesting books. Food and nutrition for every kid. Taught a lot about proper diet. Some of the activities on the activity sheet involved tracking what she ate and how much exercise she got, talking about the different types of nutrients in food. There were some ways to check to see if a food is a starch. You dab it with iodine, I believe, something like that. It's been a long year, so I can't remember all the experiments we did, or that she did, rather. But it was a good, it was okay. It wasn't like, again, riveting material, but she learned some things from it, and there were parts of it that were more interesting than others. Blood and Guts, a working guide to your own insides. This was a pretty interesting book. Again, not riveting for her. She didn't find this a thrilling read. There were questions from the material on this book, and so, yeah, that's about all I have to say about it. Understanding Your Brain is an Usborne book, and Usborne books have lots of kind of drawings and things in them. So that made finding the answers to the activity questions more difficult for this book. Just was harder for her, but it's a wonderful book, beautiful, well done. The Care and Keeping of You, basic hygiene and body care for females. So things that you can imagine that girls need to think about during their adolescent years. This covered it very tastefully. I think it was good information. Again, this book and this book kind of work together. And would I buy this book as a standalone? Probably not. Probably just because I didn't know about it. But, now that you know about it, I recommend it as a good standalone if you're wanting a book on hygiene for your daughters. It's cute. It's you can see it's the American Girl. So probably maybe 10 years old it'd be better for. My daughter was about 13, so it was a little bit beneath her. A lot of the things covered in this we'd already gone over. But nonetheless, it was an interesting resource. Then lastly, the Usborne Complete Book of the Human Body. Couple of issues with this one. Again, it was hard to find the answers to some of the questions in this book. It is, again, an Usborne book, as I mentioned, and it has, tons of information on every page. And it's not necessarily in an order that's easy to find. So when she would have a question on the activity sheet from this book, it was sometimes difficult to locate. And so, yeah. Now, overall, this material, easy to use. I got the activity sheets. The package comes, and I don't have it now because of downsizing and cleaning over the summer. But I put all of the activity sheets from the original material into a binder, and every week I would take out what she needed for that week. And I made a tab like this one. I'm not sure if you can see it because of the lighting. But it's one of the self-adhesive tabs that you just buy, the Post-it note types. I wrote on it current week, and I moved it every week as we moved to that section, because I would use my book. It had the answers in it. And so as she would do her sheets, I would move my tab, and I could quickly flip open to where the answers were for that week, grade her work, and that was that. So it was very simple. And the one tab, lasted me all year long. I only had to use one. And I moved, it's 36 weeks. I moved it 36 times. And yes, so those things work great. That was just a freebie. That was a bonus, just for your information. If you need some tabs that are reusable and flexible, and yes, I recommend those. But anyway, so overall, that was smooth, very easy to organize, very easy to hand out and grade every week. As for whether or not I would buy it again, I probably would. If I were continuing homeschooling, I would use that material. If I had another daughter, I would use it and get the boys' books that supplement it, which basically I think the only one that would be different is they get a different one. They don't get this one. They get one for boys. So I think that's the main difference. But I would get it for my son, but I would get it for him this year. So he's 10. I would get it for 10 and 11 years of age. To me, that's what it was appropriate for. It was very simple material. I wish I'd gotten, and I believe I've said this in previous homeschool update videos throughout the year, but I wish I'd gotten something more challenging. And had we continued homeschooling this coming year for her 8th grade, we had planned to use the general science from Apologia for her science material. I believe that would have been more challenging, would have been more on grade level for her. She got done very quickly every day. She did find it interesting, but it did not push her as hard as she could have been pushed. And I'd spent about $170 on all of this material, and I couldn't get a refund, so we used it. But she did learn some things. She did enjoy it for the most part. Actually, she enjoyed it a lot because, like I said, if it had been more challenging, that may have been a downside to her. But for me, I found it as a downside that it was so easy and she got done very quickly every day. And I just feel like this course did not reach her potential. And so it wasn't the course's fault. It was my fault, my lack of knowledge about how Sonlight materials work. And I think it's hard for any parent to know with this type of a system because they tell you themselves it's an age range. And when I selected it, she was 12 and she was within the age range, which was, I believe, 11 is what they recommend, to 13. So see, she was already at the upper end of it, but I thought it'd be okay. But, she's smart, she's hardworking, she's a go-getter. And so this material just was lacking in that way. So, it is what it is. There are no tests or quizzes with this material either. It's more of a Charlotte Mason-y type thing where the kids narrate or tell you about what they've learned. You do use the activity sheets as sort of a monitor to see how they're retaining and understanding the material, but there's no testing, which is something else that I like testing. I think it's good for kids to know how to take a test and to know how to study for a test. That's how the world operates, whether we agree with it or not. That's how they're measured. And so I think it's important that kids learn that. So those are my thoughts on the Sonlight Science Level F curriculum for girls. That's a mouthful. It's a very good program. If it's, if this is what you like, if it sounded good to you, I recommend it. If you are nervous about it, maybe do a little more investigation into it. I wish I had, as I mentioned, looked more into the difficulty of the material and chosen maybe the next level up. That might have given us a completely different experience, But anyway, thank you so much for watching today. I do hope to make some more videos before the summer is over, and I don't know how regularly I will be able to make videos when school starts for the kids and for me, but I'll try if you'll hang around. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to leave me a comment, if you have a question for me about homeschooling, please let me know, because even though I'm not currently homeschooling anymore, I do love it. It's always going to have a special place in my heart. I am thankful that I got to do it for 16 years. And so if I can use any of that knowledge and experience that I've gained to help someone else, I would love to do that. So just let me know. Thank you so much and have a great day. If you haven't already, I would love it if you'd subscribe. That is, if you're interested in anything I have to say. Give me a like, give me a share, a comment, thing. Have a great day.